What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack-Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Mumbai Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles from Fort Lauderdale.
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the CS hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host.
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I am your host, Charlie Robinson. Thanks for checking us out. If you're watching on Ickonic or if you are listening wherever podcasts are served, we certainly do appreciate your support. The website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can check out everything about the show there. You can reach out to me. You can buy the book digitally there. You can buy it in paperback form on Amazon and at barnesandnoble.com. Our sponsors are Scribd. If you are interested in audiobooks, if you are interested in ebooks or e-magazines, Scribd has everything that you need for that. Unlimited, $9.99 a month. Check it out for 30 days for free. If you don't like what you see, you can cancel anytime. Also, CuriosityStream is our other sponsor. I am a hardcore documentary geek. I've watched everything there is to watch on Netflix. I'm pretty sure every prison documentary ever made, I've seen it. I'm not bragging. It's not a good thing. But if you're into documentaries, CuriosityStream has them. They have thousands of them. You can get them in HD, unlimited streaming, thousands of shows, stream it on your laptop, on your TV, on your phone, on your tablet. $2.99 a month. That is 10 cents a day. Give me a break. If you can't afford that, get your act together. The links for both of the sponsors, Scribd and CuriosityStream, are in the description. If you support them, it directly impacts the show. We certainly do appreciate that. Well, I am freshly back from Anarchapulco, and one of the great things about Anarchapulco is that you get to meet amazing people that are doing interesting things. And last year, 2019, I had the pleasure of meeting somebody that I had admired from afar for a long time through his work on Joy Camp, and we got to know each other. That continued to going to his wedding later in the fall, and now this year, 2020, back to Anarchapulco. And who happens to be the host? Well, it is my good friend, Benny Wills. Benny, how are you?
Hey, Charlie. I'm very good. Thank you for that nice introduction. And yeah, I'm doing very well.
We didn't get to hang out too much during Anarchapulco because you were busy. You were working. I was like on summer vacation, so I got a chance to just go around and hear everybody. But what was your take on it? As the first year of the host, obviously you've hosted Red Pill Expo before, and it seems like you could very well have a niche here because you're an actor, you're a performer, you're a poet, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a Joy Camp member, you're all these things. And it just so happens that works perfect for Anarchapulco. How'd you feel after your first year doing it?
It was really fun. And yeah, it's a really surprising development that is totally unexpected. Whereas I like to tell people that the poetry that I do is came into my life as a curveball, but the emceeing is even more of a curveball because I didn't have any intention of that at all. When I started writing poems, at least, I was like, okay, I want to perform these. But emceeing just sort of fell into my lap, and turns out I'm actually really good at it, which I am, I guess, not that surprised by because I do have a lot of stage experience, but it's cool to have such great feedback. And the Acapulco conference was great. They did work me like a dog. I was working all day long, every day that I was there. So it was not a vacation for me at all. In fact, my vacation started when I got home and was able to relax for a couple days in my house and my bed. But no, it was a great event. I do wish I could have spent more time speaking to my friends and getting to know new people, but being backstage and doing the MC stuff was super fun, and I would do it again.
And you probably will do it again, I would imagine, at some point.
We'll see. I'm not campaigning to be an MC, so if people want me to do that, they got to ask me, because I got too much on my plate here at home to seek it out as like some new job thing for me. But I'm open to it. If anybody wants me to host an event, I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, it helps that you have, tons of experience on stage, in front of cameras, in front of people. That sort of component, I think, knocks out 90% of the people that just would go up there and fold on camera, or, the bright lights, and they get up there and they, shit themselves and aren't able to perform. So you've got that out of the way, obviously. And you also have a strong understanding of that world. From your work in Joy Camp, from your work just in the alternative media, these people, what they're talking about. If you dragged some traditional Hollywood guy off the street and said, we want you to host this event, he'd be scratching his head. Like, first of all, who are all these people? What are they talking about? This sounds like, crazy people up here. And, but for you, you're obviously you're comfortable in the theater portion of it. You're comfortable with the content portion of it. You know all these people. You did a great job with Ron Paul, by the way. You did 30 minutes of Ron Paul on his own with a microphone, and then 30 minutes they brought out 2 leather chairs, and the two of you just sat there, and you had a really good rapport with him. But of course, I feel like he's kind of an easy guy to get along with.
Yeah, they threw that at me last minute too. That wasn't supposed to be me up there, but
oh, really?
I think it was Jeff originally, and then he decided he wasn't interested. So they asked me if I would do it, and I said, sure. So they handed me a piece of paper with questions on it and sent me off onto the stage. And yeah, it was a cool, strange, and exhilarating experience. But yeah, I'm finally using all those tools I acquired for something good. And that's the best part about being a performing poet and an MC, is that I spent so much time honing my craft as an actor and being on stage for the better part of 2 decades in my life. And when I first quit acting, I had a lot of resentment towards that time that I spent, because I thought, man, I invested so much into this thing that is now not going to pay off for me, and I wasted a lot of time, energy, and money and emotional stress, everything into this. So then to find out that I could be a poet and perform at conferences that are alternative, like you said, or otherwise as well, because I think my poetry can transcend just the conspiracy stigma. And now the emceeing, it's all making sense, and it feels like all of that had to happen so I would be able to do what I'm doing now. And so it's the ultimate like coalescence of everything that I've put time into in the last 25 years of my life.
Yeah, I had there's a company that I'm a co-owner of with a buddy of mine named Steve. Steve and I went to boarding school together. Then he went off to Northwestern. I went to USC. We wound up meeting up years later. And he was an actor. He went through the theater department of Northwestern, and then he started this idea of working with professional athletes to help them be better on camera for interviews and public speaking and things like that. And then we matched up one night. We bumped into each other, and I said, quit acting I'll quit my job at an ad agency. We'll get together and we'll do this full time. And we did. And he went through some of the same, I watched him go through kind of the same phase that you were going through, which was, what am I going to do? I've been doing this acting for so long, and all his friends had gone on to be like, you know, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Sean Hayes, all these guys that were like mega successful. And he was an actor who was doing great work that he enjoyed, but he hadn't really hit that level, and which of course most people don't. But then once we started to incorporate, you know, this company where he was using his acting skills, but in a much different way than he had ever anticipated. It took him a little while, but then once he realized that was going to be a better use of his acting skills, he just launched into this new stratosphere. It really embraced it. And maybe that'll be the same thing for you. I mean, you go through acting for 20 years and you don't know what are we going to do, but you've got this really great niche where everybody knows who you are. They really like your vibe, what you're saying, the way you're saying it. You're obviously comfortable with the content. And I don't think it's limited. I think you're right. I don't think your poetry is limited to the conspiracy world. There's much more to that. Of course, you've got a show on Ickonic called Words, Words, Words that jumps. You get it. You understand more so than anybody as an actor, as a conspiracy researcher, as a performer. You understand the power and the value of words. And so much of what we do on a day-to-day basis is communicate, but we never really examine the power of these words until something recently happens, like the social justice warriors kind of come about, and now all of a sudden we start to see that some words are off limits, and it makes us start to think all over again, hey, these words that we sort of take for granted, they're actually quite important. When someone comes to limit us, it becomes that George Orwell newspeak where they talk about that language was the only language getting smaller and smaller. And of course, that was a catastrophic move in that book, because it removed the numbers of, you know, the ways that you could describe something. So if anyone knows the power of words, it's got to be you.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. And yeah, that was sort of the impetus for that Words, Words, Words project in the first place, was just letting other people speak for themselves through me, essentially. So finding passages, speeches people haven't heard, or bits from literature or books or studies or anything, and bringing them to life. And so, because I feel like that can outsmart the censorship monster, because I'm not saying, you know, it's not me, it's this guy. Right. And showing the just the absurdity of all the censorship. I mean, as if words can hurt us, which is so ridiculous.
Well, the last video, the Joy Camp video that you put out at Acapulco 2019 was brilliant. I forget the name of it, but it was brilliant.
It's called Censored. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. It's called You Can't Say That Anymore.
Yeah, but you can say it. I mean, you should be able to say it. This is insanity that we've let these maniacs tell us what we can and can't say. And the fact that you're poking fun at it, to me, I feel like that's the best way to kind of get the message out there. I mean, you can be the person that goes out into the streets and screams at the sky, you know, but to do it through humor, God, I just think it's so much more impactful. The way you guys were able to do that, was like the way Jon Stewart used comedy to inform you about really important news events. But he did it with a smile and a laugh, and you laughed at the preposterousness of it all, and then you went off and went, oh yeah, but he was actually talking about a real event. And I feel like you guys at Joy Camp, when you were just putting out amazing content, you were hitting it from every angle, and it was so great to see it, because you would laugh, and it was so well produced, and you guys obviously are all a bunch of actors, and to see that, it just before I even knew you, I was like, oh, these guys are killing it. I just was so interested in the Joy Camp world. You guys, I know you're sort of separated by distances, but
just by distance.
Anything in the works, maybe?
Well, we have a new video that's coming out Gosh, it should have been out already, but it'll come out hopefully within the next week or two. But we filmed it last July. That's how slow our our process has been. Because yeah, like you said, I mean, we are separated. I mean, part of my quitting acting involved me having to leave Los Angeles. It was a breakup with so many aspects of my life, and leaving Los Angeles was I had to make that choice. That was the best decision for me, and in doing so, that had to sort of sever not the ties with Joy Camp, but the consistency or even just any sort of video making came to a screeching halt. But I had to make that choice because Los Angeles was no longer serving me in any way, and it sucks. But they're still my best friends, and everybody's doing their own thing now, and we all we all love Joy Camp. And we all wish we could do it more. And I think we'll keep doing it. I think we can keep, even if it's just one video a year, I think we can definitely keep up with that. Hopefully, anyway. The funny part for me was I've been doing all these events and conferences now for 4 or 5 years. And I'm the only one from the group to have done that. So I'm the one who's been out there meeting people in real life, like yourself and many others who knew about Joy Camp. So I've experienced firsthand for years now that people really liked the content. And those guys, the rest of the guys, never have experienced that until my wedding last fall. So I would be coming back from places like Acapulco as far back as 2015 and telling them, you guys, people really like the videos. Because we were always kind of discouraged that the videos weren't ever going viral. We never had more than 20,000 subscribers. It was like starting from scratch with every single video. And it got frustrating because you don't see growth. You start to lose your, push to get it done. And those, we all had lives to live as well. And I was constantly like manning the ship and, keeping it moving. And so it was frustrating for me to know that so many people were really resonating with the videos and loving them. And then all they had was my word on that, So it wasn't until my wedding when they were all approached by, again, people like you and others who were there, and they were like, wow, people really love Joy Camp. And I was like, I've been telling you for 5 years that people like the videos.
I didn't even bother any of them. I saw all the guys there, but I didn't want to be the guy who's like, oh, I love Joy Camp. But maybe I should have.
You should have, because they were all afterwards. They were like, wow, so many people love Joy Camp. I'm like, I've only been trying to tell you for literally years that this is the response I get whenever I go out in public. But yeah, it is what it is. And then of course, right on cue, they're like, we got to make more videos. We got to keep doing it. I'm like, you guys, I live here in Washington now. I try, because the last couple of years I was in LA, we didn't make many videos because we all started, we have to make money, we have to survive, and we have our relationships and everything. So I was really trying to double down on Joy Camp. At the same time, those guys were a little distracted, and nothing against them because we're all doing our own thing. But I didn't want it to dissipate, and it did start to dissipate before I left, and so that actually helped make the decision easier for me to leave LA. Was Joy Camp's production was seriously slowed down, and it didn't seem like it was going to be picking up anytime soon. So that was probably the thing that kept me in LA 2 years past when I should have left anyway.
Well, I always just assumed, I guess I didn't really ever look at the view count, but I always just assumed it was like millions of views,
Never, not even one. No.
I just felt like everybody knew, you know what I mean? And
it's possible, but we got censored for sure. I mean, there's definitely been some tampering with our channel, but yeah, no, we never went viral. We never hit it big. We never, we had some. We're like a niche, almost like cult, classic conspiracy channel. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, for those watching this or listening to this that don't know what Joy Camp is, first of all, how dare you? Second of all, get your act together and get on YouTube and find some Joy Camp videos, because it's just the one thing that really kind of caught me was the production value. Really high quality. I kind of assumed it was like, a studio, maybe like a Comedy Central spinoff studio that was doing these sort of, little one-off videos, and, because it looked like it was really professional. You guys obviously were great actors. The writing is amazing. So, I just mistakenly assumed that everybody was on board. And when you and I first met, you were like, "Oh yeah, I do this thing called Joy-Con." I'm like, I know. Are you crazy? I've been watching, and awesome. It's so it ages well too, by the way. Like I said, the videos that you put out 5-6 years ago are as relevant and as funny and as interesting today as they were back then. My only question is, how did you guys keep your shit together when you were filming it? Because I would have come unglued. It would have, I guess, maybe because you guys are professional actors, but to me, it was so, it would have been like, cut, stop laughing, this take, stop, because it was just, it's so well produced and well written that I would have been a mess. I would have had to have gone offset and not been around to watch it. But
there was a lot of laughter that you don't. If there was like a blooper reel, you would see all that, but we don't have.
Oh, okay, good. So I'm glad to know that it was.
We had a lot of fun making them. Oh yeah, we had tons of fun making the videos. And for what it's worth, only myself and Delman were the professional actors. The other guys aren't actors, but they wouldn't call themselves actors anyway. Oh, but we just had a good rapport with each other. And Kevin, that's why the production value is so good, is because everyone had a niche skill that they were able to contribute, and everyone also happened to be very funny on camera. But Kevin and Nick are not actors. Kevin and Nick are both primarily editors, but they're just really good on camera. They're very funny because we all had a good sense of humor. That's what made it all work. Is that we're all pretty funny people.
Yeah, but, I think people got a sense that that, or at least I did, I should say, that when I left college, I moved to Hermosa Beach, California, and had 3 roommates, and I felt like if we had a camera, that's the sort of stuff we would be doing. Now, of course, we wouldn't actually, but it just felt like that. It felt like a bunch of guys that were really good friends, that were having a good time, that were talking about funny things, and had a good sense of humor. Actually, we did have one of my roommates was this hysterical guy, and we just kept. I mean, if it was the time when podcasting was around, we would have definitely had a podcast because. The sort of nonsense that we were into and things we were talking about, it just seemed, I related. When I watched Joy Camp the first couple times, I was like, oh, these are like guys I would be friends with for sure in real life. And I think maybe that translates. It's just, it was a great moment in time, but I hope that you guys can, do stuff in the future because
we'll see. Yeah, I want to too. We're all on our own journeys now, and it's actually that's the worst part about being in Washington is that I'm so far away from my friends. That's the hardest part.
All right, now it's back. It was telling me the connection was lost, but whatever.
But yeah, I just said the hardest part of being in Washington is being away from my friends. That's it. So hopefully they can come to me sometime because I've been going there, but hopefully they can come because I'm really starting to build my life up here, and I'm gonna have less time to travel as things progress.
But the great thing about Washington is what you are doing and the way you're doing it with real estate. And that's one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about because my background is in real estate as well for almost, let's say, what are we now? 17 years in real estate. But I've never seen it done quite like you were doing it. And at your wedding, I got seated next to Richard Gage, who I talked, poor guy, I feel like I might have talked his ears off. And Anna was across from us. And so I had a good conversation with him for about an hour. And he explained what it is you were doing. Explain it back to me. What is it exactly that you're doing? And why is what you're doing so revolutionary?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. I always want to talk about real estate, but no one ever seems to be very interested in the conversation.
Oh, it's fascinating. Well, it could be boring if it's just traditional real estate agent. I'm going to show this house, but if you're doing something new and you're doing the way you guys are doing it, it's way fascinating.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So it's so fascinating. My wife and I, who's then my girlfriend, we're so sold on one conversation we had with Annam that within 2 months, we sold all of our stuff, bought an RV, and moved to Las Vegas to train under him and which led us ultimately to Spokane, Washington, where we are now. Yeah, that's how sold we were on A&M's approach to real estate. So it is fascinating, and that's the biggest leap I've ever made in my life, was based off that conversation. And it's because it's a way to make money by adding value to the world and problem solving. And it's anarchist real estate, or voluntary real estate, so that it's all terms that are negotiated upon between the parties involved, and there's no overlord stepping in dictating how things need to go down. And it's finding things that help each other. So for instance, with his approach, we've done 2 houses now, and they've both turned out really well. You find someone who is in a tough spot, who can't pay their mortgage, or they inherited a property that they can't pay for, they don't know what to do with. And we are real estate investors, so we step in and we figure out what their needs are, what they want, assess the value of the house and do all that homework. And then we make an offer, and if it's pleasing to them, they accept it, and it gets them out of their situation. It saves them from foreclosure. It saves them from, the debt they're accruing. We buy the house, which helps them. And then we have a house that's ours that we've been getting through loans from Joy Camp fans, which is also amazing. That's a whole other aspect of this that's been cool. So we get a loan from a friend, not from a bank, but from a friend who trusts me and my wife enough to loan us money. And we buy the house, we pay for the rehab, we fix it up, we create jobs along the way, because we're creating jobs for people who want to do the work around the house, the contractor and the painter, the roofer, etc., all the various odds and ends that need to be done with the house. The neighborhood is then improved because you're taking this house that usually is like a black hole in the neighborhood, or one of the less desirable looking houses, and you bring it back up to market value. The neighbors are happy, and then you sell the house to someone who's excited to live in it because it's a brand newly remodeled home, and then we get a profit at the other end. So it's win, 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 win. Everybody involved wins in the situation. And when A&M explained it to us, like I said, it was so intriguing. We jumped at it because I had a pretty unhealthy relationship with money before that, and I thought it was impossible to make money in a real ethical way. Especially, I was so disenchanted with acting. I mean, I loved training as an actor, loved doing all the stage stuff. When I moved to LA, it became so clear how just devoid of a heart and a soul the place is. And I really didn't like it. I didn't adapt well to the LA scene. And I started making money in commercials, and pretty good money for a while. But at a certain point, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is compromising my integrity, because I'm using all my skills to help sell a product that's most likely unhealthy to the person who's going to buy it. And I feel like a sellout. And I want to figure out how to make money in a way that's going to not keep, that's not scarcity, that's abundant, but also with that can be good for people. And so when A&M told us about this approach, we were so sold. We, like I said, sold everything and left California and lived in a travel trailer for the next year and a half in order to figure out how to do it.
He's a pretty persuasive guy.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time. And I honestly, like, real estate aside, he should be speaking at every single anarchist convention there is. The guy speaks more fluently about voluntarism and anarchy than anybody. And and I tell every organizer this. It's a shame that he's not a speaker at every single one of these conferences, because he's got really, not only can he speak eloquently about the idea of anarchy, but he's got really practical solutions to empower anarchists, or not even just anarchists, but voluntarists, whatever, etc. People who understand that the system is flawed. There. So yeah, ringing endorsement for A&M in this one.
Yeah, he will explain how you guys. I think one thing that a lot of people appreciate is the fact that you're able to go around the banking system. How does that all work? How are you guys able to do that in a way? Because I think people are either understand it now or coming to realize that the banks are definitely not your friend. They have rigged markets. They've all been found guilty of rigging marketplaces, Forex, Comex, you name it. They've rigged it. Not just my opinion. They've been busted for it and have paid millions and millions of dollars in fines for all their shady activity. So anything that goes around the banks has got to be at least at the bare minimum a step in the right direction. So how are you guys able to get around the banking system?
Well, like I said, I mean, I'm in sort of a cool position that I didn't know I was going to be in when we first embarked on this journey. But that's also a testament to just, when you take a leap, things, I think that God, or whatever you want to call it, the universe, I'll call it God, rewards you for being brave, for, saying, I'm going to go for this, and success is the only option. And I learned that I could get loans from Joy Camp fans. So again, I earned the respect of people without even realizing it by doing silly YouTube videos with my friends, so that when it came time to buy a house from somebody, we didn't have to use the bank. I just reached out to my network, and people were willing to loan us the money. Now, there's something in it for them as well, and I was able to articulate that in a way that they felt comfortable. It's not just like they give me money and I, say, I'll give this back to you when I can. No, it's all under contract, and it's with points and interest. So there is something in for them. It's letting them have their money work for them. So their money's going to work. So our first flip we did, we bought the house for $100,000, and by the time we sold it, $10,000 interest had accrued. So my friend who loaned it to me, just basically by moving $100,000 over to the house, they were able to collect $10,000 on top of that within a few months. That's pretty awesome for them. So they're happy. And it's a way to grow your wealth, have your money work for you. And there was no bank involved at any point. So yeah, and also that helped me understand that, I don't know, begging, I shouldn't say begging. A lot of people are really frustrated with it. They're not getting paid off of YouTube and anymore, and the ads aren't paying out or whatever. And so they feel like they're constantly pumping out content so they can stay relevant, so they can keep getting paid. They can get their PayPal, they can get their Patreon. And that's all fine. I mean, I have a PayPal set up and a Patreon set up, and I would love anybody to come be my patron because life is expensive. But to be able to transmute the following that I have, the trust and respect that I've earned with people, and turn it actually into huge gains because I'm actually taking my financial life in my own hands, I think has been the best way to turn a fan base into something that is really beneficial to everybody and helps my life much more than if I were to get like a couple dollars every day from making sure I had videos posting, because that would take away the time that I would have to do these other projects. So anyway, that's a whole other story probably. But yeah, it's been a really awesome unfolding of events doing the real estate stuff.
Yeah, you think your fans like you already with Joy Camp, you start making them money on top of that, they're going to love you. How do people, I mean, are you taking on new investors? Do people, how does that all work? Are you?
Yeah, well, I still have to post my before and after photos from the last house that we did, because that's what seems to get investors interested. So the first house we needed money for, I just put a post out there and I tagged some people and just said, like, this is what we have under contract, and this is what you would get if you became our lender. And it's all backed by the house. So if we were to somehow bungle this just horribly, you own the house. It's not the worst thing to get as a consolation prize. Yeah. So it was all backed up. And then when I posted the before and after photos of that first house, I got 6 more people interested in being an investor to my projects. We went with a good friend of mine, and that worked out great. And she wants to invest with us again. And so did the first people. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. But as soon as I post these next before and after photos, maybe more people will be interested in lending, because lending is a great way to increase your wealth without having to do pretty much anything. And yeah. I don't, there's risk involved with everything, but there's less risk investing in a real estate project with me and my wife than there is in the stock market, for instance. So yeah, so if, gosh, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but if anybody out there is interested in becoming a lender or just talking to me in general about any of this, because I'm excited to talk about it because it's really changed my life. Benny@bennywills.com is my email address, and you can email me and we'll talk, because I think it's Anim's model is amazing. And I think that, one thing we can do to combat the system is figure out how to thrive within it. So I think that I spent way too much of my life in my 20s really hating money, thinking it was evil. But money is just a tool like anything else, and you can use it for good. And it makes life so much less stressful when you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay for rent, pay for meals, pay for gas. So to empower people who are alternative minded, or anybody really, I'm all about it.
Yeah. And I mentioned I've been in real estate for a long time, but specific to that, what I've been doing for the last 6 years has been working with my partners, Aubrey and Bristol Murundi, in Las Vegas. And they buy and renovate houses, the same sort of thing. They finance it themselves. They don't go through banks. They actually don't even go through investors. They just have decided they're going to self-finance. But we parlayed that into a television show on HGTV called FlippingFlop Vegas, and did 3 seasons of that. And we're actually in the process of filming a pilot for a new show that we're creating. So it's like, people turn on HGTV, they see these renovation shows. We know because we know that they're watching numbers, but they wonder like, well, how can I really do this? I mean, this looks like something that I don't have this background, or I don't know how to do that. But your background isn't in real estate either. But you don't need it to be if you understand. I mean, you obviously have to have some of the basics in place, but the fact that you're able to jump into this with guidance, of course, from Annam, who put you on the right path and can help you out, is such a interesting resource to have. And this model, it seems like it can be replicated all over the place. So it's not limited to you. Somebody watching this or listening to this can say, well, I'm interested in getting involved. Maybe they'll reach out to you and start that conversation. Maybe it's not as a lender. Maybe it's as somebody that wants to do this in their hometown and they're unsure about some things. I'm sure you would be willing to at least give them a little bit of guidance and more than anything, tell them, listen, I'm an actor. I can figure this out. I'm also a rational, intelligent human being who can, who doesn't have to have you don't have to have a background in construction. It might help so that that somebody's not ripping you off, but at its core, it just comes down to a decision that you made, which is, are we really going to do this? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, fine. Let's do it and let's commit to it. And so much of whether it's us getting into real estate or whether it's you getting up on stage or something, is the fear associated with, oh my God, what happens if everything goes wrong? Well, if everything goes wrong, you're still going to live. You're still going to make it off stage, fine.
Exactly.
You're still going to, your lenders would take this house and get a beautiful, they have collateral. You're not going to fall on your face, and I think it's inspirational for people to see that you've been able to come out of an industry that in no way has any sort of connection to real estate and be able to be successful doing it. And not only that, do it in a way where you can sleep well at night. Knowing working in real estate as long as I have met some shady individuals, some of the sketchiest people I've ever met in Las Vegas real estate. But you don't have to be. And you're sort of proof that you can be a good person, do good things, improve the community. Like you said, win, 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 win all the way along. And then you just keep waiting for like, okay, well, where's the problem? Where's the headache? You're like, there isn't one. Everything about this model seems to work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And furthermore, just beyond just real estate, I think, like you just said about stepping into fear, I think that's the most important part of all of it. Facing those fears, just taking risks, because Sonia and I, we are living proof that you can quit something, sell everything, leave it all behind without knowing what's on the other side, and be successful in something brand new in 1 year's time. It was within 1 year that we were doing just fine in real estate without knowing a thing about any of it. And that's that for us, it's real estate, but for other people, it can be anything. I mean, that was huge, a huge up-leveling for us. And also to just, so many people just get stuck where they are. And I was stuck for a while myself, and we all get stuck sometimes, but it's important to remember that taking risks does pay off. And in fact, they usually pay off really well, because I think it's part of our nature. We must take risks in order to literally move up the ladder in life, spiritually, financially, all of it. So, yeah, and I think all of it is facing fear. I'm only performing at conferences as a poet around the world now because I took a risk at Anarchapulco 2017 and used my speaking slot and to perform poetry. I'd never performed poetry anywhere in my life before. I didn't tell anybody I was going to perform poetry, and I knew that there was a possibility that I would crash and burn, never get invited back to Anarchapulco, get booed off the stage. No one would like it. I knew that was a possibility, and I still said, you know what, screw it, I'm doing it anyway. And it ended up being the opposite. It ended up being better received than I even thought it could be. And now I've been traveling all over the world doing it the last couple of years, and it's, yeah, again, facing fears, just doing it. Because, like you said, I mean, I knew back then, like, well, I could fail at this, but I still have a girlfriend who loves me, family, friends. They're not going to care. It's all good. I still have my body and my everything is still intact. If they hate me, so be it. At least I tried.
Yeah, we get bogged down in that. What if the wheels come off and everything? Well, what if the wheels come? I mean, every good stand-up comedian will tell you that there's nothing like bombing. You got to bomb every now and then. Joe Rogan described bombing as sucking 1,000 dicks in front of your mom, And so what's the worst that can happen? You go through that experience, you come out the other side, and maybe you're better for it. But one of the things I noticed this year in Anarchapulco was, since you were not doing poetry because you were hosting it, there were other people that were. And maybe that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't started this a couple years prior. So you've made poetry cool, which is kind of nice. But you've made it, you've made it part of Anarchapulco for one. It's now a component of that I think people are going to get a little taste of. I thought the guys that were doing it did a really good job. And in fact, he invited that one kid up who had written his own poem, and he performed it in front of everyone. And the response was fantastic. That was really like a great moment. This kid was like 16 years old and went up there and written this poem. I don't know if he'd written it just then or he had written it in, a year in advance or whatever, but he went up there and had the guts to do it. And the crowd was very, enthusiastic and warm. And that might not have happened a couple years ago, but I think you showed that there is a niche there that can absolutely go, that can be mainstream. People really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, one of the reasons why I think I do well on stage is because I realized really very early on, while audiences can be critical, they want you to succeed. A person is sitting in the audience because they want something of substance to be presented to them on stage. So they want you to be good. The audience wants you to be good. So that's comforting to know that people are there because they really are hoping you do a great job. So do a great job. I mean, so that takes so much pressure off. They're not going out there, for the most part, by and large, generally speaking, they're not going there hoping that you fail. They wouldn't bought a ticket if they were hoping you would fail. So that they're there because they want to be entertained, they want to learn something, they want to be inspired, whatever. So use that. If people who are afraid of public speaking, just let that be a comforting thought, knowing that the people in the audience, while intimidating, they're there to support you.
Yeah. There's also something to be said for walking up on stage, with some confidence and acting, even if you're faking it, to walk up there as if you're supposed to be there. You should, you have every right to be on that stage. You're going to convey something that's very important. If these people would just give you a chance, they'll learn something. I think public speaking, when they rank it as like the number one fear that most people have, and I get it. It can be frustrating. I haven't done a ton of it, but I've spoken at these conferences and some other places, and it's just one of those things. You kind of just have to step outside of your comfort zone and realize that, like you said, that the audience is they don't have bags of tomatoes waiting to pelt you with them. They're just sitting there trying to get some information. And if you get stuck a little bit, the crowd, at least at Anarchapulco, it's a pretty warm crowd, people that are genuinely happy to be there. So, I thought it was, I think it's just one of those things that it teaches you, to overcome your fear, whether it's public speaking, whether it's packing up and moving out of Los Angeles, whether it's jumping into a whole new area. I mean, you look back on it, you go, yeah, there was anxiety. Yeah, there was fear. And that's a normal, healthy response, but it didn't cripple you. In fact, it might have been a little bit of a motivating factor, but a little bit of fear is probably not a bad thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Nerves are important. And I think, everything I just said, I still get nervous when I go on stage. I'm still like, some moments my heart starts beating fast and I'm thinking, okay, how's this going to go down? And I'm worried that I'm going to forget the lines from my poem or something. And it just happens. That just comes with the territory, but you go through it, you do it anyway. And you do it enough that you just get used to that and just, it's a part of it. And that's thrilling. It's also, nervous energy is still energy and you can utilize it. So instead of running from it, the worst thing you could do is get nervous and then decide not to go through with it, because then you'll have all that time to think about how you didn't go up there. So better to just step through it and work through it, because when you're on stage, you can use that to your advantage. You can use it as energy to fuel what you're about to say and do, and not let it, make you cower, which is the worst thing. Yeah.
Or you could go up there drunk like Jeff.
Yeah, you could. You could do that. It's always an option. I don't recommend that option. In fact, I don't recommend being inebriated in any way when you go on stage in front of a crowd of people. But you can do that. You have free will, and you're allowed to do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, but just don't take that second hit of acid. That's all. I'm just saying, the wheels might fall off. Speaking, Red Pill Expo.
I'll be there.
Jekyll Island.
I'll be there.
Are you hosting it?
Yeah, no, I'm not. And it's kind of a relief. I do like the hosting stuff, but it is a lot of work and it's pretty exhausting. No, I much prefer to have my speaking / performance slot, bada bing, bada boom, do it, done, then I can hang out. And that's what I'll be doing at this one. And that will also leave me more time to sell copies of my book, which G. Griffin is publishing. So target release date is the Red Pill Expo, and I'm really hoping that it comes to fruition by then, because it's been a long time coming, and I really think that this book of my poetry is already the quintessential poetry book for freedom-loving, liberty-minded, anarchist, conspiracy, alternative, yada, yada, yada. Sign of the times right now, go-to poetry book. It's the only one like it, and I think it should be in everyone who has a collection of books that's, has like a counter perspective on things. It's not an official narrative. Should own this book, and I wanted to. I'm really excited about it and proud of it, and it should be, if all things go exactly according to plan, it should be ready to sell by June.
Awesome. Name of it?
Yeah. The working title right now is "Poetry is Dead and Other Poems." And I like that title.
I like that.
But it's subject to change. Who knows? That's the working title. Ed seems to like it a lot, and I think it's intriguing enough that anybody would be like, I want to open this up and see what's inside. So
yeah, half the battle is the book cover and trying to get people to stop for a second and notice it when there's a sea of books out there. It's obviously a challenge. I didn't know that you were putting the book together. I'm excited to read it when it comes out. You'll probably beat me and Jeff. Jeff and I thought we were going to have our book ready for this year's Anarchapulco, but we're still finishing up some edits and trying to get him to.
It was supposed to be ready by this Anarchapulco too, and it just takes time. And Ed is a very busy guy, so
yeah,
I'm ready. I have it all ready, and I told him the only problem with delaying it is that I will keep writing poems and I'm going to keep wanting to put them in the book. So there has to be like a cutoff point,
right?
Or else I'll just keep writing them and I'll keep sending emails saying, "Hey, how about this one? Here's 5 more."
And, that's a good problem to have. But I didn't realize that he was publishing other people's books. But I guess why not? He wrote the book on the Federal Reserve that changed a lot of people's lives. I mean, I think people know who he is because of that book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. I was pleased to meet him at Anarchapulco last year. Met him in the airport, actually, in Mexico City. and said, "Hey, I pulled up next to him and I said, I'm going to be hearing you talk in the next, tomorrow." And he just looks at me and he goes, shakes his head and goes, "I'm sorry to hear that."
Yeah, he's a legend. Nice guy. He's great.
I think I want to try and make it to the Red Pill.
Cool.
This summer. It seems like to have it at Jekyll Island is so perfect. Awesome. It just seems so fitting. It's going to be great, and the guest list look pretty strong as well. So
I hope I'm on the guest list so far. I don't know.
You're on it. You're on the website.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. Yeah, it should be. That's my only performing gig lined up for the rest of the year. Is that one so far? So that's if anyone wants to come see me do my thing, come to the Red Pill Expo because they might not have another chance in 2020.
Yeah. Well, you've got Joy Camp, you've got Words, which is available on Ickonic and also on YouTube. You've got the real estate thing going on. You're newly married. You've got a lot on your plate. So I'm glad you were able to just hang out for a little bit with me, catch up. I'll see you probably in Georgia.
Yeah, I was going to plug my channel real quick since we have a moment.
Plug everything.
YouTube.com/Benny Wills. YouTube is not what it once was, but it is still where people are. So I'm on there. I just started my channel last year in the midst of all the censorship nonsense, but I'm like a phoenix rising from the ashes, at least attempting to. So if you still frequent YouTube at all, go to my channel, youtube.com/Benny Wills, where you can see the Words show that Charlie just mentioned, as well as a lot of my poetry that I performed at various conferences, or sometimes I'll just do it right to the camera here in my weird little basement setup. But yeah, go to the channel and email me if you want to talk about real estate, or if you want to talk about an advanced copy of the poetry book that's coming, Benny@BennyWills.com. And you can find me on all the other social media platforms as well with my name. Just, you can figure it out.
If you can't figure it out, then the poetry is probably too complicated for you.
It's Wills, not Willis, WILLS. And it's also Wills, not Wells, which they put in the program for Acapulco. I couldn't believe it. Benny Wills. WILS is my name. Story of my life.
Jeff needs to hire a proofreader. I'll remember that one for our book. Make sure we have it edited properly.
I think that's a good idea.
Benny, you are my favorite. You're the greatest. Thanks so much for hanging out. This is the second episode that I've done on Ickonic. So I'm grateful to have you here as a guest. I'm grateful to have you as a friend, and you're a phenomenal human being. And tell Sonia I said hello, and I will.
I definitely will.
We will talk soon. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Charlie.
Bye.